Hey guys, it's Carly here for MFT. Today I want to share with you a fun way that I add a little sparkle and gloss to my die cuts and create kind of a DIY enamel or epoxy embellishment look. To start, I've cut a bunch of the peppermints with this Sweet Sticks Holiday Edition die set, and I'm going to layer them up. So for each one that I'm going to make, I've got 3 circles and 1 swirl layer. So since I've die cut everything from white cardstock, I'm going to add color to the top layer of my peppermint with some alcohol ink markers. Now the reason I'm using alcohol ink for this is because I'm going to glue that white swirl layer on top of the color, and then I'm going to add a water-based glossy medium. And so I don't want any of my inks to run into the white swirl layer, and that's why I'm not using any dye inks or hybrid inks or anything like that. I could have also used colored cardstock instead, but of course I didn't have the colors on hand that I wanted. So using the Copic markers, which are alcohol ink, and I'm just doing a little bit of color blending for a little bit of variation on the top of my mints. Once I'm happy with the blend on my colored layer, I'm going to adhere it to 2 of the blank white layers. So I'm using a liquid glue just because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room to make sure everything's lined up perfectly, and I'm just gluing all 3 together. Now the reason why I'm using all these layers is because I want it to be really sturdy later when I add the glossy medium on top. The card I had in my mind when I started planning this was also a grid card, so I thought it would be perfect to have these really dimensional peppermints on my card. Later I do realize I probably didn't need 3 layers, but that's okay, it still worked out. So after the 3 layers are done, I'm adding that white swirl layer on top with the same glue. So now my peppermint is ready for gloss. So I've got it on an acrylic block with a loop of low-tack tape, and I am covering the whole thing with glossy accents. Now to minimize air bubbles in your glossy accents while you're applying, try to keep the pressure steady on that bottle. But if you do get some little bubbles in there, you can grab a craft pick or like even a toothpick and put it into the bubble and kind of pull the bubble out to the side, move that glossy accents around while it's still really wet, and you can kind of fix any mistakes. Also, this is a great time to add a little bit of sparkle to your gloss, so grab some chunky glitter and just sprinkle it into that wet glossy accents before you set it aside to dry. Now the reason I work on an acrylic block is because now I can take that glittery glossy mint and set it aside to dry somewhere where I won't accidentally stick my finger in it. So I set that one aside to dry, then I colored a few more in different colors. I've got them on a bigger acrylic block. I'm adding more glossy accents. I'm going to add more glitter in a second, and it's great because I'll be able to set this aside too and not worry about messing it up. And I do find that I get the best results when I let it air dry. It depends how thick of a layer of gloss you put on. It depends on the temperature and the humidity at your house. But I find that if I do it at the end of a crafting session and then set it aside for the night or at least for a few hours, then I've got this great result and I didn't have to worry about it getting cloudy with a heat gun or getting scorched or anything like that. And before we move on, here is a quick look at why I used the alcohol ink markers, why I used Copics. So that's Copic on the left, and that is a water-based ink on the right. So you can see that it bled into the white. Now, if it didn't have the white layer, I wouldn't worry about it at all. But since I was combining them, I wanted to make sure it wasn't going to bleed and run. So that's why I used the alcohol ink. So all of my peppermints are glittery, glossy, and dry, so I'm working on my card. Now, when I made them all, I was originally planning a grid card, but once they were finished and I laid them out, I didn't really like it anymore. So I pivoted to a freeform kind of design around the sentiment, which is really cute, and it's from the Sweet Holiday Wishes set. After stamping that sentiment onto some snow cone cardstock, which is one of my very favorite colors ever, I am going to start adhering my peppermints. And again, I'm just using liquid glue. And this is where I realized I probably didn't need them to be quite so thick. Probably didn't need 3 layers of heavyweight cardstock because I wanted my peppermints to go off the edge, and now I have to trim all of that off. So really 4 layers of cardstock with the swirl and with the glossy accents, but totally doable. So if you make them like me and they're already, you know, these really sturdy enamel type embellishments, you can still cut them off. Don't worry. And after they're all adhered, here is the finished card. I did decide to omit the green ones, so here are the Copic colors I ended up using. And sorry, green mints, I'll save you for another project. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope that you are inspired to be crafty today, and I hope you have a blast doing it. See you here again soon. Happy crafting.